riches and things that man cannot be satisfied in life. It's not the satisfaction of life. What Solomon is trying to tell us is this. He says simply this: Solomon has found that having, watch this is important, having the world and all that it offers does not satisfy. I know what some of you are probably saying. Well, give me $1 million and I'll take a shot at it. Well, maybe so. But let me share this with you. Look clearly and carefully at what he says. He that loveth silver shall not be satisfied with silver. What he's saying is simply this. It don't matter if it's gold, if it's wealth, or it's a super duper inheritance. I know somebody says that sounds kind of redneck. Well, that's okay. Inheritance. What you have, it says, nor he that loveth abundance. Hey, ladies, listen to me carefully. You'll find out that in the long run, all the glamorous things will never make you happy. And guys, driving the best car, wearing the best clothes, playing with the best people at the golf course is not going to make your spiritual soul satisfied. Now, some people look at me and they'll say, are you belly aching about my golfing? Are you telling me we shouldn't? Let me back up. I come from a golfing family. My whole family's golfed. I had 5 brothers. All of them golfed, and we golfed, and my mama golfed, and my daddy golfed, and I mean, we golf. I beat more golf balls around than anything in my life. Jesse played golf. He's super golf. I've got a niece that's a professional PGA pro in golf. So don't get upset if you're a golfer and you say, well, he's beating. I'm just telling you this. We have to be careful about our pursuits. Those things will never satisfy the soul of man. That's what he's trying to tell us here. It doesn't matter if we have wealth, if we have knowledge, and even if we have influence, it will still leave you empty. You've got to remember something. Oh, man. We don't have no idea about Solomon. Solomon was one of the wealthiest men that ever lived. He had not only wealth, he had influence, he had a great impact upon people, and guess what? He even had biblical theological knowledge. He was a man of great godly wisdom with all that he had of the earthen realm. Probably really and realistically the greatest man that ever lived other than Jesus Christ, particularly in the Old Testamental period. It's amazing what he looked at and what he had. But what's the application? The application is his conclusion of the book of Ecclesiastes concerning misguided pursuits. Listen to what he says. He says all of this, and at the end of the book, chapter 12, verse 13, Solomon makes a concluding comment. He says this: let us hear the conclusion of the whole matter. What's that? All that he has said. Fear God, keep his commandments, for this is the whole duty of man. That's a pretty profound statement, particularly after all that he's already said. He says, I just want you to know something. At the end of the day, that's what he's telling us. He says the thing that we must understand is that we need to have a fear for God. We need to keep his ways, keep his commandments, for this is the whole duty of man. Wow. So what are we talking about? We're talking about the journey of life. And the thing that we've got to realize first and foremost is that we need to be careful about misguided pursuits, because misguided pursuits can lead us into a place or unto a place where we will find out that it truly is not satisfying in life. Wow. Second thing I want you to notice here in Ecclesiastes chapter 5, the second thing that we notice concerning the whole issue of the journey of life is that Solomon advises us about empty ambitions. Empty ambitions. Listen to what he says in verses 11 and 12. He says, when goods increase, they are increased who eat them, okay? He says, and what good is there to the owners thereof, saving the beholding of them with their eyes? The sleep of a laboring man is sweet, whether he eat little or much, but the abundance of the rich will not suffer him to sleep. Wow. Let's talk about that for a brief moment. What are we going to be talking about? We're talking about empty ambitions in life. When we think about that, the first thing that we notice is in verse 11, he's talking about beholding what he has and everything with his eyes. Look what he says. And I'm going to break this down a little bit. He says, when goods increase, okay, they are increased who eat them. Look, listen to me. When things increase, that's just that much more on your plate. And you know something I was thinking about just this morning? Are you ready? It's a whole lot different to be pastoring Caney Fort Baptist Church right now than when I first came here 24 years ago. Little red brick church out in the country on the hillside running what, David? 80 at the max? Yeah. We used to have fellowships in the old basement. I'll never forget, David gave me, my first Sunday here, he gave me a bag, a little lunch bag that kids take to school. And he had written on the outside, a bag full of pleasure. I thought, what in the world, a bag full of pleasure? David, I still remember that. And I thought, what in the world is this? And I opened it up, and I liked what I seen inside. A bunch of fishing lures, okay? They put them all down in there for me. I was ready to go, brother, okay? A bag full of pleasure, a bunch of fishing lures. The thing that we've got to realize is this, is that when he says this is so important. When he says, when goods increase, they are increased who eat them. And what good is there in the owner thereof, saving, here it is, the beholding of them with their eyes? And he's simply saying this, look, you increase. Wow, look what you've got. And Solomon says, y'all can't touch what I've got. His whole church together can't touch what he had. You say, Solomon was that wealthy. You better have billions of dollars, okay? He was that. And so what he done is he looked and he could say, okay, I've got all of this. Well, I can just look at it. But here I am, right here. Here is my life. And in the long run, it's all vanity. So what do I need to do? I need to honor God, walk in his ways, and be the person that God would have me to be. And as his blessings come, let them come. But remember that we're accountable before God. That's what Solomon could see. So when Solomon began to look at that, he began to understand that, and he began to perceive that. And then listen to what he says in verse 12. He says, the sleep of a laboring man is sweet, whether he eat little or much, but the abundance of the rich will not suffer him to sleep. Wow. I know some of you are probably saying, I tell you what, you just give me millions of dollars, and don't you worry about it, I'll deal with the sleeping. Huh? It's important we understand that. Listen to what it says in chapter 4, verse 6 of this same particular book. Just back up previous to chapter 5. Listen what it says in verse 6 of chapter 4. It says, better is a handful with quietness than both hands full with travail and vexation of spirit. What he's saying is this. He says, look, it's better just to have what you have and be happy than to have two hands full, actually even probably running over. But I tell you what, this is just miserable. That's what he's trying to tell us. See, what we've got to realize is riches and ambitions can cause us to worry. Listen to me very, very carefully. I want to say something for people to understand. Listen to me carefully. If you've got a job and you can get up and go to work at 7 o'clock and you can work till 3:30, and when you walk out the door, you don't have to worry about nothing until 7 o'clock the next morning, I got news for you, brother. You got it made. Thank God for what you have. People look at me and I say, well, preacher, you don't do nothing. Baloney, come walk with me. My day starts at 4:30 and ends about 11 o'clock at night. Yeah. Alarm goes off at 4:30, right, darling? 4:30 in the morning. I'm up, I'm going, having my quiet time, coming to the church. Getting to the church, I leave here about 10 o'clock. I leave here at 10 o'clock. I go get my work clothes on, and I work like a slave all day long. Come in dead. I eat, get cleaned up, give me a little time to have some quiet time, Bible study that evening, and try to go to sleep at 11 and back up the next morning. Yeah. Let me tell you something. Don't get discouraged and mad about the boss at work who's making more money than you, but when the door hits you on the back on your way back out, you ain't got to worry about nothing till the next morning. You are a blessed person. Don't ever do this. But don't look at your boss and say, I'm going home to sleep good tonight. This is your business. I'm gone. Yeah. Don't do that. Let me tell you something. Management is not all that's cracked up to be. Right, David? Especially at your own store and everything that goes with it. It's responsibility. Being an inspector, that's not all fun, is it? No. So what I'm saying is this. Look, when you're in a place of leadership, when you can get up and you can go work every day, listen to what it says. The sleep of the laboring man is sweet. Whether he even eats or has much, the pressure is low. That's what he's saying. But the abundance of the rich will not suffer him to sleep. You know why? Because when he lays down at night, he's saying, I wonder how much my money's making. Wonder if I've lost some today. Oh, did we do enough work today to where income outproduces the cost of certain things? Let me tell you something, friends. That's not necessarily fun. That's nerve-wracking. So I know some of you are probably saying, well, how does that fit into this morning's sermon? It fits into the journey of life. That's part of it. So when we think about that, we need to be mindful of the abundance of riches can also have an effect upon us as we try to pursue. Listen here again, just be mindful of what it says here in chapter 4, verse 6, about the whole aspect of the travail and vexation that can come in the spirit. When we think about that, remember this is important. We need to be careful about having the wrong ambitions in life. Ambitions of positioning oneself. Listen to me. There's nothing in the world wrong with the pursuit of positioning yourself somewhere. But if that becomes your total goal at the cost of other relationships, You need to be very careful about that. You need to be very careful about it. So we need to be careful about the whole aspect of that. Ambitions in life, about positioning oneself. Also ambitions with our talents and with our gifts. With the gifts and the talents that God's given you, you need to be careful about that and make sure your ambitions stack up with God's leadership and divine call upon your life. Also ambitions at the cost of others. What do you mean by that? Well, I just want you to know that by dogs, this is what I'm going to do. And it doesn't matter how it affects my wife, how it affects my kids. This is my pursuit. Well, I'm going to tell you something, friends. You just keep on pursuing it. In about 5 years, she's going to walk off and leave you. Or find another man. Yep. That's hard preaching, isn't it? And you know what else, ladies? Goes the same way. This is your career, this is your pursuit, and this means everything to you, regardless of what your husband thinks, what your children think. This is my pursuit. Yep. And he'll begin to see that lady at work. Oh. Boy, it got quiet, didn't it? Because you know why it got quiet? Because you know that what I said happens all the time. Ambitions that can cost relationships with others. Also, ambitions concerning wealth. Look with me in Proverbs chapter 23. Turn on over to Proverbs chapter 23. You got to actually turn back, because Proverbs is prior to this. Proverbs chapter 23. Listen to what it says in verses 5 and 6. And back up, not 6, but 4. Let's look at verse 4. Verse 4. Labor not to be rich. Cease from thine own wisdom. Now, listen to me carefully. When he says labor not to be rich, he means labor not for the purpose of being rich. Hey, there's nothing wrong. Listen to me. I really admire and honor a guy that does his work and God's blessed him and God showed his favor upon him because he's got a good work ethic. You just keep pursuing, let God keep blessing you. If he takes you to the moon, that's good, as long as that's not everything. That's when you get in trouble. Labor not to be rich, cease from thy own wisdom. Then listen to what he says. Wilt thou set thy eyes upon that which is not? Woo. For riches certainly make themselves wings, and they fly away like an eagle towards heaven. Wow. Man, that's something to think about. Something for us to ponder on. So, having said that, remember this. Solomon advises us about misguided pursuits and empty ambitions. But thirdly, and guess what? It is short. It's not a long point. Thirdly, remember this. In verses 13 through 15, Solomon advises us about miscalculations. How you can calculate this and it ought to come out like this. It's not always true. What do you mean by that, Brother Steve? Look what he says in verse 13. What he says in verse 13 is so important. Riches, I believe, can change us literally. It says, there is a great evil which I have seen under the sun, namely, riches kept for the owners thereof to their hurt. Wow. You remember that guy I met at the store one day that owned a big farm, lost a big farm. Somebody else bought the big farm, a huge, big, nice farm. And I said, boy, I tell you what, that would be a great farm to own. Just look what you would have. And this guy was probably 70 years old. And he turned around and looked at me. He said, yeah, and we'd all be sorrier than what we are. That's what he said. So when he said that, it took me a little while to understand that. I thought, man, what are you talking about? And what he meant was, he was looking at me, he was saying, son, when you glimmer upon that big, nice, big, huge farm and flat and beautiful it is, if you're not careful, that can become everything. It'll make you sorrier than what you are. I walked out of that store and I thought, here I was, a young guy, about 38 years old then. This guy was on up in his 60s or 70s, and he knew what he was talking about. See, riches can change us, can change our personalities, it can change our values, and it can even change our attitude. It can do all of those things. Also, I want you to notice in verse 14, the misuse of wealth. It says, but those riches perish by evil travail, and he begetteth a son, and there is nothing in his hand. Evil travail simply means this: an ungodly lifestyle will cost you. That's what it will. If you live an ungodly lifestyle, in the long run, it will cost you. That's what Solomon concluded with all of his wisdom. He was simply saying it will cost you. Namely, he says here something that's very, very important. He says, for those riches perish by evil travail, and he begetteth a son, and there is nothing in his hand. It simply means this: the result is simply this: we don't have anything to give to the next generation. That's what he's saying. Have you ever heard the story from rags to riches in 3 generations? Let me tell you something, folks, that is so true. You might want to write that down if you haven't heard that. From rags to riches in 3 generations. Grandpa was the one that put all the time and the work and the work and the work and the work into something. Son comes along and he kind of adds to it a little bit, but the grandkids come along with all that's been profited from it. They never saw what Grandpa had to put into making the business what it is. All they know is new cars, new house, new boats, and let's go to the lake. Does that sound like today's society? Yes, that's it. They never knew that Grandpa got up at 4 o'clock every morning, made sure that store was open, made sure that everything was taken care of. Diligence. Never saw that. The misuse of wealth. And then also, here's the conclusion, we also see miscalculation in verse 15. As he came forth of his mother's womb, naked shall he return, to go as he came, and shall take nothing of his labor, which he may carry away in his hand. You've heard the old saying, I've never seen a U-Haul trailer behind a hearse. Cannot take it with you. Something for us to be mindful of. Well, Brother Steve, what's the answer to the message? It's found just below this, and here it is. This concludes the message. Listen to what he says, chapter 5, verse 19 and 20. Every man also to whom God has given riches and wealth, and hath given him power to eat thereof, and to take his portion, and to rejoice in his labor. This is the gift of God. Wow. For he shall not much remember the days of his life, because God answereth him in the joy of his heart. Wow. Isn't that good? What a beautiful way for Solomon to end this chapter. So when we think about it, make the best choices in the journey and let God be your guide. And when you do, and when you honor God, it will be more than just about what we have. It's what we possess in here that really makes life worth living. Amen. Will you bow your heads, please? Father, I pray that you'll bless these few moments that we have. Maybe there's some decisions that people need to make this morning. Maybe there's some that just need to come to say, Lord, in life's journey, I need your guidance. And maybe some just need to come and pray and just ask for your guidance, ask for your wisdom. There may be some that are facing some major decisions in life, and they need to lay some things in your hands. There may be some here this morning that don't know Christ as their Savior. And Father, maybe someone just needs to give you their heart and their life and say, God, I just give you, here's my life. Will you come into my heart and into my life, make me a new person that I can serve you because I can't without you. And Father, I just pray that you'll bless these few moments that we have with whatever decision that anybody needs to make or whatever prayer that someone needs to bring to you. Pray that you'll bless these few moments, I pray in Jesus Christ's name. Amen.